right. Hello, everybody.
How's it going?
Oh, pretty good. Were you talking to me?
You, everyone, whatever.
Is everyone here?
I think so. Are you all here?
In theory, they are. Hello, I'm AJ Capuano.
And I am Kailey Capuano.
And you are listening to Atla Shrugged, the Avatar the Last Airbender podcast. So, we find ourselves in Season 1, Episode 6.
Book 1.
Oh, book. They're called books, not seasons.
I mean, they are seasons, but we like to call them books because we do.
Them books.
We call them books.
Mm-hmm.
So, Episode 6, thanks for joining us here. Last episode, we left the great city of Omashu. Aang just survived 3 deadly challenges posed by his dear friend Boomy, who's like 100 years older. And
Boomy's so cool. Boomy's an OG.
Yeah, he's the real kind of guy.
He's a real one. So now we find our heroes. They're sort of lost in the woods, and they're a little bit hungry.
Yeah, in the woods, Sokka has taken on the role not only as hunter, but gatherer, and I don't guess he's, like, as good at gathering. He's got what he thinks are 6 nuts. Some might be rocks.
One of those rocks wields an almighty power, or so I thought for the first, minute of this episode.
Yeah, did you think that maybe Lil Momo was an earthbender for a minute?
I thought he had become an earthbender, which made the whole rest of the episode a little bit confusing. If you're just tuning in for some reason, I've never seen this show before, and we're watching this episode by episode, but Kailey has.
I've seen it a lot of times.
She's quite well-versed in the ways of Avatar, and she's exposing me to something which was not up my alley as a kid, but is very much up my alley these days. So
you missed the target demographic the first time. You were a little too old, I think. But the cool thing about Avatar is that you can jump in anytime. I really think so, at any age, and enjoy it.
I am no longer too cool for Avatar.
Yes, we've joined the Nerd Squad. Can we still call each other nerds?
Yeah, I don't see why not.
I thought maybe some people don't like it, but I really identify with nerd and nerd culture. I'm like all about it. That's who I am. And I think it's who you are too.
I think you were all about it too before it was cool, because it's become very cool. I mean, Game of Thrones.
Yeah, GOT is the OG also. Just waiting on that
it's all about that Wheel of Time.
Waiting on that book 6, Mr. Martin. Anyway, we're going to continue because this podcast is about Avatar, The Last Airbender.
I don't think we're going to get another Wheel of Time book. What do you think?
Oh, probably not going to get another Wheel of Time book.
We can rebuild him.
Is that author alive? How old is Wheel of Time?
So old.
So old. But really, it's fantasy. I'm more of a fantasy gal myself, though I'm getting into the sci-fi world.
She likes the orcs and the elves. Yeah, and I think that's pretty weird, I say, as I boot up Final Fantasy or Nier or Persona. Anyway, so yes, Imprisoned. We start in a forest, and we're hungry.
We're hungry. We've got some nuts and maybe some rocks. Momo, the lemur, might be an earthbender, and we're in a very pretty Lothlorien-esque forest. Also a different franchise. I don't know if you know what I mean, but the Golden Glow is just a lovely setting. And all of a sudden, we hear some big booms.
Boom.
Boom.
Boom. And I thought Momo had become an earthbender. But he hadn't. Or had he? Dun, dun, dun.
Well, we hear the booms coming actually from somewhere, so Katara and Aang just hop right off and go chasing after it, which always skeptical Sokka. Shouldn't we run away from huge booms, not toward them? But then, of course, he runs after them anyway.
Sokka, okay, his success rate is so low. With knowing what is best. That maybe you'd think he'd just learn after a little bit.
It's like he's almost always wrong, but he's almost always right to be skeptical. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's why he's important. That's one of the many reasons he's important.
So we go chasing after these booms, and then who do we find?
We see this dude. Young dude. Appears to be maybe in their age range. Earthbending. He's throwing some rocks at the wall.
He looks a lot older, but he looks older in the way that that like if you watch old high school shows and you're like, wow, that guy is 30, and they're trying to like pass it off like he's like a senior in high school. It's like, not with that jawline. Anyway.
Clearly older. Definitely. Yes. But again, you hear Sokka like be kind of cautious. He's like, okay, this dude looks dangerous. Like, let's not forget that we just left Omashu and maybe Boomy was your friend. But this dude looks powerful and we don't know him, so let's maybe be cautious. And then Katara literally runs in yelling like, hi there, my name's Katara.
Mm-hmm. What nice giant boulders you can make float.
I mean, even just that floating rocks looked cooler than M. Night Shyamalan's floating rocks, but we're going to move right past that.
I think our grudge against M. Night Shyamalan's vision for Atla is well documented at this point. If you're just tuning in, we're not big fans.
Not big fans.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Katara runs in, she's like, nice to meet you, and this earthbender like just drops his rocks and runs away.
Mm-hmm.
So before we follow them into the village, first of all, at that point, did you still think that Momo was an earthbender? And why did you think this dude was running away from them?
No, I had figured out that this other dude was an earthbender because of all of the earth that he was bending. That was what tipped me off.
It's good reasoning skills.
Thank you. And so yeah, they follow him, right?
Yeah, follow him straight into the village.
Do we know the name of that village?
I really don't think it says.
Okay.
Just an earthbending village. Aang, Katara, Sokka go right in, and I think you hear Aang like go straight up to this guy, and he's like, I'll trade you some nuts for this hat.
A fine trade indeed.
So Aang's like just jumping right into it.
Right. He is a very social little avatar. I guess if he's like the savior of the whole world, you're gonna be emboldened somewhat socially by that, and plus you're like 11 years old anyway.
Speaking of emboldened, like, I'm just gonna say it again, you don't skip the intro. Netflix, just get rid of the feature of skipping the intro.
Yeah,
it sets up
all the elements every single time.
Well, and
water, earth, air, fire, Orbeez. Orbeez. Yeah.
What are Orbeez?
Orbeez? They're those little balls that you put water on them and they turn into big balls.
Is this from our fake video game we haven't made yet?
No. It's from very much real life. It's a very much real product. And you know, like those little dinosaurs that would be pills?
Oh, you mean like the little like jelly bean things that dude poured down the drain?
Death.
Would you have traded your Orbeez for a hat like the one Aang bartered for?
Yes.
In
a heartbeat.
I think that's fair. Mm-hmm. I also like that he puts it on, and then Katara has already she has a strange fascination from this dude, like right from the beginning. Katara's always friendly, but suddenly she's like...
I think they were flirting.
You know, I think they were a little bit too, but Katara's just a little too young for him, I think.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's okay.
What are you talking about? He's a senior in high school.
Yeah, probably. Do we even know that? We know that he's... Here's the thing.
A hunk.
If we're going to revisit the science of cartoon height to age, he is taller than Sokka, and we know that Sokka's like 15.
Right.
Going on 16.
I am 15, going on 16.
Thank you.
On 17, might as well be 18. My Tinder profile says 19.
You still have a Tinder profile?
No, I don't still have a Tinder profile. I was making a joke.
Do you guys know that we met on Tinder?
They don't know we met on Tinder. Why would you tell them?
Because, like, a lot of people met on Tinder. We didn't really meet on Tinder. The
Matrix guided our hands into one another's.
We had a class together, actually, and he tried to talk to me a few times, to which I...
A few times?
A few times.
I tried to talk to you I tried to talk to
like
you.
a bunch of times.
So many times.
I would call it 2 handfuls
Towards
of times.
the end of that semester, I would legitimately get to that class about 30 minutes early when I knew we were having a test, because who would I find there? And it was only one, because this class would meet 2 days a week, and I would get there early every time, not knowing that you only got there early before a test 1 out of these 2 days a week because of your schedule or whatever.
No, not because of my schedule, because I only woke up early to get to that class on test days.
Okay. And you sat outside, and I'd be like, oh, hey, are you going over key concepts of the class? Can I help you with that? And you were like,
yeah.
And so I was just like, wow, that just didn't work. I guess I'll try again the exact same way next time.
2 things were going on in my brain. 1, this beautiful human decided to talk to me. Speak back. I could not speak back. And the other thing was, this beautiful human decided to talk to me on test day. Yes, I am studying key concepts, which I have not looked over until this morning. Would you let me do that?
Right, but you know who takes a really good test? There's an old proverb that says he or she who makes out before a test gets a lot of answers right. And who am I to doubt the wisdom of the ancients?
I can honestly say, no, I really can. I can honestly say I think I aced every test I took since I started dating you. Really,
coincidence?
So there's something to that.
It's the secret to success, folks.
So, was Katara flirting with Haru? We may never know. But she does follow this dude straight into his house.
Like it's no big deal. Like we're playing Final Fantasy or something, and like you walk into everyone's houses and they're like, hey, what's up? I'm going to tell you a random thing about what's going on in this town that somehow aids your adventure. And why don't you have a look at our treasure chest? You can have whatever's inside.
Right. But
never fails.
Like, these aren't NPCs, Katara. Did you not... Hey, this boy just ran away from you, and then you followed him into his house? Like, she's heedless.
Heedless reminds me of someone.
I might like Katara.
Anywho,
so, yeah, then in come Aang and Sokka, and Haru is, like, trying his best to his mother to be like, no, these people are crazy. They don't know what they're talking about. And then Aang's like, no,
right,
dude.
because they're trying to call him out on earthbending.
Yeah, and they're
do.
Aang's like, yeah.
We just saw this dude earthbending.
We saw you. Like, you were the dude earthbending. And that, I think, was the first time that all 3 of them, Aang, Katara, and Sokka, were equally naive. Like, they just left Boomy, who is the king, apparently, and who put them through 3 deadly challenges, maybe, yes, he's crazy, but maybe to prepare them for the kinds of crazy things they're about to see when they leave his impenetrable city. Think about that.
Right.
They're not in Omashu with their giant stone walls that can only be penetrated by earthbenders. They are now in a village, and they have not considered the danger that may be around them at all. They're just like, oh, hey, yeah, weren't you the dude earthbending? And then, like, immediately Fire Nation soldiers come in.
Our heroes are awesome. Our heroes are not contemplating the social realities of the world within which they live.
Within which they live.
Anyway, so, yeah, and then Mom finds out, son, you've been earthbending, which takes us to our sponsor. If you want to keep your mom from finding out you've been earthbending, download NordVPN. You can browse all your earthbending message boards, subreddits, and the like without fear of your mom finding out. You can actually watch YouTube tutorials of how to move dirt to and fro at your leisure. We're not sponsored by anyone. we're not.
Use our
that's fake.
5G service to earthbend in Venezuela.
5G service that is going to make my child born with 6 heads and coronavirus.
And they will be able to earthbend. So 5G promises earthbending, maybe?
We're on to your secret, Verizon. Trying to make us all earthbenders. We're not moving dirt.
I really don't even know if we're like allowed to say companies' names like this, but we're gonna.
We are.
We're totally gonna.
First Amendment. We are. And you are too if you get NordVPN. Okay, I'm done. I'm done. All right. So mom finds out the cat's out of the bag. Out of the earthen bag.
And we find out that earthbending is totally forbidden in this city. And Katara is just like floored by this. She's like, but you can't ask him not to earthbend. He's an earthbender. That would be like asking me not to waterbend. I'm a waterbender.
I already made Bending Squad t-shirts.
But he's a bender. And see, I think that maybe starts to show that Katara has so little like fellowship. Like she doesn't have a team, you know. She's got Aang. And Haru's not a waterbender, but he is young and he's hiding his bending. And he's clearly trying to learn, and I think that part of her... And that hair. I think part of her maybe sees herself in him and just, like, wants a friend. Like, she wants friends desperately who understand.
Right. And there's this thing about kindred spirits that is pretty reliable, where if you see someone and you have been through the same stuff as that other person, it shows. You know what I mean? And I think that's what's going on there.
Yeah. So as soon as they all like gasp and realize, oh, you like aren't allowed to earthbend though, then the firebenders come in.
Yeah. Firebenders come in and they are they're not the nicest.
They're collecting taxes, so they say.
Yeah, they are they're the mob.
Right, yeah. So they have been occupying this village for 5 years, according to Haru's mother. Mm-hmm. And now, I mean, this is some scary stuff. They come in, everybody's like trying to act natural, which obviously looks stupid, but trying to act natural. Right. He comes in and says, taxes have doubled, give us your money. And even like the show of pain on her face, he like lights a light ball or a fireball in his hands, and he's like, you know, fire can be so hard to control. Like, this is some crazy stuff and intimidating.
Yeah, he's saying, I'm gonna burn your house down if you don't give me some coins. And even though her expression is pained, they go along with it. Which I think is the first emergence of sort of the underlying theme. I mean, this one hits you right over the head. With it. The episode is called Imprisoned. But I think this episode is about how stop me if I shouldn't be saying this right now. It's fine. I think that the theme of this episode is about how you can be conditioned by an institution, by a ruling organization, or by oppressors. You can be conditioned to oppression, and the sort of the thin line between grace and taking too much. You know, obviously everybody in this episode is taking more than they could stand, and we get to that a little bit later. But I think Imprisoned is a good name for this episode.
Yeah, it's also the first episode that hasn't been the something. And I think it's maybe only one of 2 episodes in this book that is titled like that. I could be wrong, but I will. So the title being offset kind of makes it important anyway. Mm-hmm. And now we know the threat. So the firebenders leave. And even after they leave, like Katara, you can see that her like rebel spirit is rising.
Yeah. She's so punk rock.
Yeah, she really is punk rock.
Those bangs are not punk rock, but she is.
They're not bangs, they're loopies.
Little loopies.
Little hair loopy.
So then what happens?
Then Katara and Haru go on a walk. And they kind of bond, I guess, over how courageous their parents were in standing up to the Fire Nation.
Yeah. I love how heart-to-hearts in this show always occurring on a vista, always occurring at a really high, cliffy place, with very pretty orange or yellow hues going over. It's like a visual representation of nostalgia. But all these sort of expository moments where characters reveal more about their histories and thereby their motivations. They're always on a cliff, always really high up.
Looking at pretty things.
Uh-huh.
Usually at sunset or sunrise.
Right. Vista time. So they have this convo.
Yeah, they bond, and Haru tells Katara that his father and some of the other the other Earth Nation people, they were outnumbered 10-1, but they stood up to them anyway, and they were captured. So Haru hasn't seen his father. They don't know where he is. And this is really what struck me. Like, until episode 6, now we know that Sokka and Katara lost their parents somehow to the Fire Nation. We know that their tribe was pretty small in the Southern Water Tribe. And that they were left basically as the ones in charge. Which is kind of crazy. But yeah. Katara says it like she doesn't even hesitate. And she just shows him her necklace and says, "This is the last thing I have from my mother. I lost my mother in a Fire Nation raid." And she says it so clearly, and that's all she says about it. But now we know what happened.
Yeah. And it's wild because we didn't really know that about her. It's like her tenacity has a purpose.
Yeah, and now we understand, I think, what that means for her mother to have been taken in a Fire Nation raid, because we've seen a few of them.
Yeah, and just the terror and destruction that they leave behind, both to intimidate and to just decimate their opponents. It's not a good look, Fire Nation. It's not a good look.
No, it's really not a good look, especially when you think about like what Katara and Sokka must have seen and all those children. Like, it's a cartoon, I know, but it makes me angry to think about it. Like, when you realize that Katara was the only waterbender in that tribe, like, what did they do? Just go in there and burn down this ice village? Like, these people couldn't defend themselves. Anyway.
So Haru and Katara are sharing why they're these kindred spirits, and this really nice. It's fast, but it's really effective. He picks up these two rocks and he earthbends them right over, but he spins them. He's talking about his father. Right. Kaylee's doing the thing. I'm
earthbending right now.
And he's talking about his father and about how it's like a therapy for him. Like it helps him connect to his father who's been captured by the Fire Nation, and he has these two pebbles and he twirls them around like Baodeng balls. And I just thought that was just so pretty, like the little, the balls.
When I worked at Earthbound, those were like actually one of the things that I told people about all the time, because the sound really does center you. Like, you can you can twirl them in different ways, and you can put them in a bowl and spin them in different ways, and just like it really does calm you.
Yeah.
That was a really cool call out.
It's super cool and so fleeting and stuff. It was just like a 2-second little shot, but delicious. Now, in case you're not aware, she said Earthbound. Earthbound is a little it's like a heady store where you can get like salt lamps and like tie-dye shirts, except it's in the mall.
Right.
Pretty funny.
They like import cool stuff in from everywhere. A lot of spiritual things like, I don't know, rain sticks and
that kind of stuff.
And they have got all kinds of little books and crystal collections and stuff that like a lot of people think is hokey, but it was really cool. I got to actually like learn a lot about different cultures that I knew nothing about just because I worked in that store.
Yeah.
Lots of little information cards that were cool. It never hurts to know more. But yeah.
That's right.
So,
and I loved that when you had that job too, because that mall had the best Chinese food buffet Oh my gosh, the coconut shrimp. Oh my gosh, it would
Oh
melt
my
in
gosh.
your mouth. It would burst with flavor, the coconut shrimp.
I never ate the coconut shrimp, but I did eat the lo mein almost every day because I could get lunch for like $2.50 and be able to eat it for like 3 days because it was so much food. Anyway.
I miss that coconut shrimp.
For real.
Yeah.
But okay, so now we've bonded, right? Katara and Haru have bonded, and then they hear a mine collapse and an old man yelling.
This is the work of Momo! It's not.
It's not.
Okay, so right, they run towards the boom again, and they find an old man. He's trapped.
He's trapped. There's an old man. No. The mine is collapsing, and like there's Haru. Katara's trying to pull him out. She dives straight for the guy and is trying to get him out from under the rocks, and Haru puts his back up on it like he's gonna hold the rocks up from falling. But
right.
Katara yells at Haru, like, there's something you can do to help him. So she's encouraging him to earthbend.
She is, and she wants him to express himself through rocks. So
use the rocks.
Right, so he's holding back, like, he wants to do everything he can, but he really feels like he can't earthbend in front of this old man, or, directly behind him, as it were, because of how messed up the Fire Nation is about it.
Yeah, I mean, I cannot imagine that kind of fear. Like, we know that his dad was taken, okay? We've seen some scary stuff at this point, but for this young guy to clearly be able to earthbend, we've seen him like throwing big boulders and stuff, and he's faced with somebody in his community, like this old man is stuck in a mine, and he's terrified to earthbend even to save his life. That's scary.
That's scary stuff.
But he does, because, good, he saved the guy's life.
Because Katara reminds everyone about everything good, and we'll see a little more of that by the end of this episode.
Because Katara has been emboldened in the heart and spirit, and we'll talk about that later. Yes, we will.
All right. So then he does finally earthbend, and in order to save the old dude. And so here's my thing. Haru was never told that no one else was in the mine. I felt a little uncomfortable when he sent all those rocks, like, pew! Because he didn't ask, hey, is anyone else in this mine?
Right. I actually had never thought about it like that, but that's true. He just sent, like, hundreds of pounds of rocks.
It must have been like, oh, this old dude is in the mine, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then everyone else is in the mine Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
Or it was just like a really cool illustration to show him. Like maybe the artists and writers didn't really think about that either.
It ended up on the cutting room floor. Isn't anybody else in that mine? Well, let me get my schedule. I think that
they didn't even draw the inside of that mine. It just went on to 2D paper. It's fine.
Abyss. Yeah. Okay. So, the viewing audience doesn't care as much as I do about Osha showing up to that mine after he's earthbended.
They all go home, and Katara was really encouraged. Like, they get to stay in their barn for the night, and then Haru tells them that they're really supposed to leave in the morning. But Katara says, oh my gosh, Haru was so brave saving that guy with his earthbending. And then it's Aang who tells her, you must have inspired him.
Yeah. Sleeping in the barn. Appa's eating hay. Appa's really cute with a mouthful of hay.
He's so cute.
Yeah.
Aang says he won't let him eat all the hay, but that seemed like a surprise to Appa.
Can we get an Appa pillow?
I would love an Appa pillow.
Can we get a whole car, like an old passenger van, and just make it look like Appa?
Oh, like the Shaggy dog van from Dumb and Dumber? Yeah. Let's do it just like that, except Appa.
Yeah, with his big old tail.
Yeah.
We could put
big
the bikes
tongue
on
hanging
his tail.
out.
Yeah.
That's like a really funny idea, actually.
Sounds expensive.
Let's definitely do that one day if we, for some reason, have expendable income to decorate our car like Appa.
Yes.
One can dream.
One can dream. So Haru gets arrested.
Oh no, Haru is arrested in the middle of the night, betrayed
busted by the man whose life dude saved. Trifling old man. Maybe that's just the institutionalizedness getting to him.
Okay, and that is where this starts to get really interesting for me.
Yes.
It's starting to reflect some interesting moments in history, but we'll get to what specifically I'm talking about, like in the next scene. But when they arrest him, this old man is like proud. They like open the door and he's like, that's him. He's the earthbender. Like, vicious, venomous. He does not want to be associated. Even though this kid saved his life, he's gonna make sure they catch him before anyone finds out that he knew and didn't tattle on him.
Because he's been programmed. He's been oppressed for so long that it's that Stanford prison experiment type deal.
Yeah.
Where you get a fondness for your oppressors if you've been ruled over so long.
And clearly, these are people who, if they're used to being threatened for collecting the dismal income that you make, you're going to take everything but your last coppers. Like, dudes, we're literally talking about pennies that he threw on the floor. Here, keep your change that won't buy you anything. And then this dude, who's just a part of their community, like, who knows if he's even an earthbender? He could be. We don't even know, but he won't earthbend.
Yeah.
It's scary. You're willing to throw your neighbor under the bus. Who knows how you're rewarded for that? And you have to wonder about the authority and what kind of things have been done to these people that they feel they cannot fight back or even don't want to fight back.
Right. It's that interesting, it's an irony, really. Fascinating move from the writers. So Haru gets arrested. Then what happens?
Then Katara becomes an earthbender.
Yeah.
Dude, I love Katara. She's fearless and, like, doesn't even hesitate.
I love the plan that they hatch.
Yes, the vents are a great idea. I love that they introduced the idea of this being a mining city, and then they use the tunnels and everything to their advantage. Like, how do these kids how do they know to use the vents like this?
They got scrappy.
Yeah, so Katara and Sokka, like, fake fight, and this is, like, one of the funniest fake fights I've ever seen, and I remember as a kid when I watched it, like, that is how it feels. You know, when you're a kid, you pretend to, like, make up drama for whatever reason. Have you ever found yourselves in one of these situations where you're, like, trying to pretend to be mad at your friend?
Oh my gosh, right. Right, and how the animators captured that in your face. How can you capture somebody portraying an emotion and transparently not feeling that emotion in, like, 2 frames per second anime style animation is crazy to me. How expressive and how studied that faux emotion really was in the animation. I'm floored by that. I loved it.
You giant-eared cretin.
Uh-huh. And it's just so great. It's so great, so funny. So we have this great fake fight between them. And then Momo, in his infinite power.
Right, so giant-eared cretin, which I think, sorry to go back for just a second, but Sokka is, like, genuinely offended by this. Like, he's playing along, and then he's like, hey, my ears are big. That's not very nice. And I think that that's yet again a call out to the fact that Sokka hears and pays attention to everything. But that he doesn't necessarily see that as a skill. And so you're just making fun of his big ears now, and that's not very nice.
Not cool.
But anyway, the vent plan works, with which Aang is just, like, not paying attention. Like, I don't know what Aang's deal is in this moment.
What's your deal, Aang?
Did he forget that this is important? Like, I've never understood why in this scene, like, dude, your friend is captured. All they're asking you to do is pay attention for a second, and he, like, can't.
He's learning.
He's learning.
Part of me thinks
Earthbending style.
Kailey, you know how talented kids sometimes don't turn in their homework?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that if I did not have my mom, I would have been that person all the time.
I think that I was that person.
Well, yeah, okay. So earthbending style, she has to say the line
Except without the talent.
twice. No, you're smart. Says it twice. Aang shoots up air through the vent, and yeah, then what happens?
Wait, so
The rock is levitating.
that's how they did it?
Yeah.
What?
What?
Momo isn't an earthbender?
No, Momo isn't an earthbender.
What? Oh my gosh, this episode makes so much sense now.
God. Were you paying attention? Yeah.
Yes, I was paying attention.
Okay. Just like the soldiers.
Oh yeah, that's so funny, and how they make him blush a little bit. It was like, oh, I knew that, right?
Which is like so good. Thank you, gentlemen writers, again, for being like, here are these soldier men. You literally see a girl yelling, saying earthbending style, lifts a rock. But you still assume that the lemur did it before you assume that a little girl did it.
Right. Oh my gosh, this episode makes sense to me now. So they capture Momo, and they throw the book at him. He's given the electric chair, and thus ends the series.
What?
What?
You even had me going for a second there, but that went dark quickly.
I'm sorry.
Momo's fine, everyone.
Momo's fine. Momo's fine. You've seen the episode. You know Momo's fine.
So, but they do, like, okay, they think it's Momo, and then Asaka's like, no, you idiots, it's the girl.
I'll hold her. I'm the man. I'll hold her.
So they take her.
Yep, they conspire, and then what happens?
They capture Katara too, arrest her, and take her to the prison rig.
Yes.
So this is the point where I think any rational person starts to doubt that Katara is not being crazy reckless. Like, is she being... This is where you ask, right? Is she being crazy reckless?
She has faith.
She has faith, and... Even Aang, like, they get on Appa and they're following her and they can see her the whole time. But Aang starts to doubt and you see the worry pass over his face. And again, this is what's so cool about Sokka, because Sokka has such faith in his little sister. The only thing Sokka says is, she'll be fine, Aang. Katara knows what she's doing.
Uh-huh.
Does Katara know what she's doing? Yeah, she has faith and she's following her heart. I think that's all he means.
I believe he has the power to save the world, Katara says in the intro.
Yes, that's why the intro is important every time. I believe, for me specifically, it means something before every episode when I hear Katara say, and I believe that Aang can save the world.
Yeah.
Because it makes me believe that Aang can save the world.
He can.
Katara's starting to make me think maybe she can save the world.
Mm-hmm.
So she just ends up on this ship, and that's when we meet the warden.
And we meet the warden,
who is voiced by George Takei.
I'm listening to this voice, and I'm like, I've heard that before. And I'm like, Kailey, who is that?
That's George Takei.
Oh my gosh. What a great man. Great man. Great voice.
And guys, I'm going to throw it out there. This is where this episode gets so interesting. When I was a kid watching this, I didn't know who George Takei was. For those of you who don't know, probably his iconic role is Sulu from Star Trek, okay? That was a big deal at the time. He's done many roles since, but when I was reintroduced to George Takei this summer while taking a class, I actually read his memoir that's titled They Called Us Enemy, about the Japanese internment camps during World War II in the United States. This was a time in American history when we imprisoned our own citizens, and George Takei, along with his parents and his siblings, were among those who were placed in the internment camps. And now, knowing that history better and rewatching this episode and hearing George's voice from the warden is powerful.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. A really inspired vocal performance.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things that hit me while you're like hearing the warden introduce himself to everybody for the first time, he's quite an intimidating person. He's clearly got a temper. And you can hear his superiority just dripping in his voice. He thinks that he's better than these people. And that really hits me. You know, he says, I would like to think of you more as honored guests. And then someone dares to cough. And he screams at them, how dare you interrupt me, and sends him to solitary confinement.
For 1 week. And if somebody coughs like that, I think you're supposed to send them in for 14 days.
Something
That's
like
what
that.
the CDC says.
Full quarantine.
Yep.
So
So obviously you didn't have this guy's best interest, but yeah, that vocal performance dripping with just chutzpah.
Yeah, it was very informed. And that's like, okay, I think it's cool that in episode 5, we got to see maybe what is one of the last places in the Earth Kingdom. Maybe that's not occupied. We don't really know. But Omashu was still being run by Boomy, and you didn't see a single firebender there. Mm-hmm. They were still in control. But here, we see how the Earth Kingdom at large is being treated. And he says something like, This is what really made me mad. The brutish savagery that passes as bending among your people. Like, he's calling earthbending something savage, something less. Like they're just chucking rocks around.
Well, that comes out of fear. You know, if you have a campfire, you bury it. You don't have a campfire anymore.
They've made the earthbenders afraid. And that's the major theme here, I think.
Yeah.
But okay, so George Takei, great performance. The warden is super scary. And then I guess, yeah, Katara reunites with Haru, who introduces us to his father, who is also on board the prison ship, Tyro. Hi, Tyro.
Haru, Tyro. So yeah, Tyro, speaking from experience and what is sort of sold as wisdom, but it is this institutionalization of, or this internalization, I should say, this internalization of the power structure that's being imposed on them, because Katara is like, oh my gosh, why this is our time is now, you know, whatever, to rebel, to have all the Earth Kingdom people, you know, come up, and he's like, I admire your tenacity, young one, but no, that's never happening.
And this is really cool too. So after that, again, going back to George Takei's book, They Called Us Enemy, George's father served really as this role that you see Haru's father taking on in the prison. He was sort of a counselor. He was a person who could speak for their block of people, or all of their neighbors. He would represent a whole section of the camp, and he would go to the guards with their wants and things that they needed to make their living spaces better. If they needed more food, if they needed books, paper, like there were so many things. This was their delegate to go to the guards to get what people needed. And that is what you see Haru's father doing, is people are coming to him saying, we don't have enough blankets. And he says, okay, I'll talk to the guards, make sure the elderly are taken care of first. The rest of us, we're going to try to have to stay warm and hope that that we have warmer weather. So he is the guy that people take their problems to. And that's exactly what you're saying, I think, is he has a lot of wisdom because he's been here a long time, but even he too has decided not to fight back in that way.
Yeah.
So that is completely lost on Katara, I think, who basically hears this. She's like, okay, but what's the escape plan? Mutiny? Sabotage?
Right. What's the plan? Tyro says, there is no plan, you fool. And Katara's like, that's
Stands
not
up.
good enough.
Earthbenders, they cannot take away your courage.
Earthbenders of the world, unite.
It is the strength of your hearts that makes you who you are.
Feel free to discuss your salaries with your fellow. No, I don't know.
The time to fight back is now.
Comrades.
And I mean, this is, again, this feels like Jesus to me, but Katara is emboldened by the news that the Avatar has returned. She knows him, she's with him, and she is on a mission with him to save the world. And she is yelling that. Literally, she's on a prison ship too, it doesn't matter that she's surrounded by ocean. Like, she's not going to be able to fight off 30 or 30 firebenders either. But she can tell you that the Avatar has returned and that it's time to fight for their freedom. And boy, does that seem to fall on deaf ears.
You can't tell people nothing. They're like, no, actually, we're just gonna keep eating our weird soup and keep staying on this ship and just wait for someone else to take charge of our lives, which is what happens when you're conditioned.
Which, for the record, does make sense at this point because they're on a totally metal ship, which we learn the Earthbenders don't have anything to Earthbend.
We find out later. Although that's not the case.
Right,
We have some new
because
stuff.
Aang and Sokka and Appa and Momo swoop in the night ready to pick up Katara, but Katara is not leaving these prisoners behind.
So steadfast, she's like, no, leave me behind.
Sokka's like, I hate when you get like this.
But he knows that he can't do anything to tell her otherwise, so he takes it. He takes that answer, and then the warden comes around. Oh my god. I love that line.
Looks like a flying bison.
I don't really know the difference between a buffalo and a bison.
Yeah, like...
I don't know that there is a difference. I don't know. Whatever he said it better, and it was so funny.
So Warden literally throws Captain overboard for not knowing the difference between buffalo and bison. Spoiler alert, there's not a difference between a buffalo and a bison. There are
So
two
funny.
words for the same animal.
Little joke for the adults there, and for the kids who've studied up on their vocabulary.
So, okay, Warden is cray. Not only is he throwing people in solitary, but now we see that he's throwing other firebenders overboard for, like, not knowing answers to stupid questions.
Right.
So this is a guy on a power trip, for sure.
Power trip.
You're fired. You are the weakest link. How many of those can I do?
I don't know. Let's find out.
Let's not.
Oh, okay.
So that's fine. Team Avatar decides they're going to stick around because Katara won't leave. So they're all going to be brave and try and see if they can save these prisoners.
Yes.
So they are on board in the dead of night, plotting between some crates.
Why didn't they open up those crates? They have to start thinking about what meals they're going to take to go. And undoubtedly, there was a lot of, rations in there or, supplies and stuff. They need supplies. Why didn't they just open crates?
Like,
because prison food sucks? I mean, I don't know.
because they're not there to steal stuff. They're there to save people. But see, you're thinking like Sokka, and I don't blame you for that. But Sokka, at this point, is trying to keep his sister from dying, and that means saving all these prisoners so that they can hopefully take her away safely.
Right. And they come up with this plan.
Right. Like, they're plotting. Aang's like, I wish I knew how to make a hurricane, which is a really humbling statement, I think, when we've seen Aang basically make, like, a cyclone out of water already. Like, we've seen him do this powerful stuff, but Aang does not claim that power. He's like, oh man, I wish I could just go into the Avatar state and, like, wreck.
Right.
But he can't do that. So instead, they
no
look
real
up.
storm, just brainstorm.
Just brainstorm. That's good.
I didn't. That's not even written down on my notes. That came right off the nog.
Oh.
Yeah.
Fresh stuff here, babe.
Fresh gruel off the nog.
Thin sliced. So, I forget which one of them, but somebody realizes there's coal.
Listen on, ye brave podcasters. Okay, right. So they hatch this plan to roll coal next day.
Right. So, someone's like, coal is rocks, right? So, yes, the answer is yes. And then we revisit that little venti trick.
Awesome.
And Aang goes and shuts in all of the other vents so that when he airbends the engine filled with coal, it will all come out one particular vent, which is right on deck.
So sweet. And the young people, a physical manifestation of the young people giving these prisoners the tools that they need to get the heck off of this ship.
Get the heck out of here.
Let's break out. Let's start a riot.
Let's start a riot.
Kailey knows that one.
Sure do.
Sometimes I'm surprised at what at what rock things Kailey knows, and I'm not surprised that you know sort of a butt rockish tune. But anyway, let's press on.
Let's just say, if it was top 40 at some point, that's my jam. I'm really fighting not to finish the line. Let's just move on, so I don't reveal how much butt rock I know.
All right.
So
a hero comes in and saves us.
Yes, there's coal on deck.
Coal everywhere. And
this is where the warden gets real scary, okay? Katara and Sokka are standing there. They haven't done anything yet, and the warden's like, girl, you're one mistake away from dying where you stand.
I think that's the first threat to actually take somebody's life that this show has ever gotten, right?
Oh, yeah.
Stuff gets real.
This dude is scary, and he has allowed Katara at this point to have her fun and make her little speech and make her feel like she's going to make a difference because that's part of his plan to crush her spirit. Boy, you can't crush Katara's spirit.
Yeah.
You can't crush her spirit.
Right.
So now that he sees that she's not all talk, that she literally has the Avatar on her team.
He's already screwed.
Yeah, then he's just gonna kill her because he's crazy. So then Katara, though, she's like, here's your chance, Earthbenders. Take it. She friggin' picks up a big rock of coal and says, take it. Your fate is in your own hands.
And it works.
It works.
It works pretty well. And you know what's great about it, too? Another irony is that the Fire Nation tries to use their fire against this coal, and really all they get is some burning coal in their face.
Yeah, dude.
Boom.
And go back to that. Okay, you were talking about Haru earlier. You remember when I was earthbending?
Yes, I do remember that. The imaginary bouncing balls.
The little balls. Warden, laughs in her face for believing in them, basically. These people are already downcast. Their spirits are already broken. He laughs at her for believing in them. And then it's Haru who throws rocks right in his face.
I love when the three old dudes too, how they like shove the rock, the coal all together and make it form like a little pad, and then they drop them over the water.
Yeah, this whole fighting scene is so cool.
So cool.
All the things, like Pyro and Haru, when they pull all the coal together and like refine it, like they pull it real tight into this giant boulder. You remember that? That was cool. They like
drop it out over the water, and dude's like, please don't. I can't swim. Yeah, 'cause you're out. See, you're out in a boat, and you never thought you'd be held up over the water, and you can't swim. Look at that.
Right.
Too bad.
Like, talk about underestimating a group of people. Anyway.
Splash.
So, yeah. What does he say? Tyro's like, don't worry, I hear cowards float.
Oh, yeah. I hear cowards float.
And he just drops him in the sea, which he totally deserves.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably fine.
He is probably fine. He probably doggy paddled until somebody came to pick him up.
Yeah, probably. Then there were ships out there, and Zuko comes later with his ship, so they're probably fine. But that is the moment Katara insists that these people deserve a chance and that they have to do something. And whether that's because Katara feels like it's her fault for telling Haru to earthbend, whatever, we know that it's not. Katara was right to tell him to earthbend because that old man was going to die in that mine. She did the right thing, whether it was legal to do it or not in this case. And then she gave them the power to fight back. They had to decide that they wanted to fight back, but once they realized what she had given them, it was Tyro who says, for the Earth Kingdom, attack. And they're going to take it back.
Yeah. Yeah, well said.
And then, they're about to leave to go their separate ways now that they've secured ships somehow. I think I missed that. I'm not really sure where the ships came from that rescued them.
I felt the same way, but I think they showed them in a shot.
Yeah. Yeah. But they rescue them, and then Haru and Katara have like a nice final moment together where Haru thanks her, and
They're flirting again.
They're flirting a little bit again, yeah. And he's like, "Come with me, come with us."
Right. Come with me. You already met my mom.
My dad loves you.
Right, exactly. She knows the parents. Holy smokes. Anyway.
Yeah, Katara's a catch. He won't be the first boy to be interested.
Oh,
but
okay.
Katara's got
Can you blame
plans.
them? Mm-hmm.
And I love that she says that, your mission is to take back your home and ours is to get Aang to the North Pole.
Yeah.
And I guess that really takes us to the end, Adge.
Yeah, and the end, of course, as is customary with shots with Zuko in them, he has his hand in a fist, and he is plotting something.
And this time, it could be dastardly, because we just learned how important this necklace is to Katara, and it is gone, and Zuko is clutching it in that fist.
And because I've never seen it before, I'm wondering if the necklace has like some powers in it. Like if she has it equipped, like does it enhance her waterbending or something like that? Like is it gonna mess her around later? But I guess we'll find out next time on Ponytail Plots.
Hair loopies.
Previously on Ponytail Plots, the Zuko story. Next time on Ponytail Plots. So, yeah, next time on...
Princely Plots.
Princely Plots. Ponytail. Okay, with that, we will leave you, dear listener. If you made it this far, thank you. Give us a good review on whatever the heck you're listening to, and show us to somebody if you want to. If you enjoy it, there's a good chance somebody else will too. So share it with somebody.
Yeah, thanks for sticking with us. We're having
Subject
fun.
them to it.
You like Avatar, you like talking about Avatar, and for some reason you think that we talk about Avatar okay, then yeah, pass it along. Thanks for joining us on episode 6. Can't wait to join you on the next episode, which is part 1 of a 2-parter, so be stoked for that.
A 2-parter?
A 2-parter.
A 2-parter?
Our first 2-parter.
Hey, you know what we should do?
What?
Thank you so much for listening. I'm AJ Capuano.
And I'm Kailey Capuano.
And you've been listening to Atla Shrugged, the Avatar the Last Airbender podcast. Thank you for joining us, and have a great day-ness.
Peace, much love.